both words, love and marriage, I want to share with you a revolutionary understanding of them. It's not the way it's understood in the world around us, because Jews don't get married. The way a Jewish man and a Jewish woman become husband and wife, they stand under a chuppah. You've seen a chuppah. And the man doesn't say, let's get married. He says, Harei at mekudeshes li. Behold, you are sanctified to me, b'tabazu, with me giving you this ring, kadat Moshe v'Yisroel, according to the custom of Moshe and the Jewish people. So the way a Jewish couple get married is an undertaking on the part of the man to sanctify his wife. Like Shabbos is holy, Jerusalem is holy, a Torah is holy, and we have the opportunity to become kadosh as well. And that's, we say it every time we do a mitzvah, Asher kiddishanu. What's the outcome of doing a mitzvah? Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav. You cause me to become kiddishanu. So that's first of all, so we've got to try and understand what all that means. And what I propose to do is to analyze it from the psukim in the Torah, and we'll come out with a fascinating outcome. I just mentioned to one of the guys that my wife and I have 101 years marriage experience between us. I was married for 43 years to my beloved late wife, who was actually with me here when I taught here. She passed away. My wife was married for 40 years to her late husband. They lived in Israel many years as well, and we've been married for 18 years. So we've got 101 years marriage, and we're kind of beginning to get it right. Of course, the complications are I'm a South African and she's a strange American lady. Okay. Right. So, and then the second subject is this very misunderstood word love. Now, I heard a wonderful definition of love by Rabbi Weinberg, who was one of the founders of Aish Torah. And just listen very carefully because it's very, very incisive. He said like this: love is an emotional feeling of pleasure which you get when you see true beauty. You hear that? Anything that you come across and you're able to see the true beauty, music, nature, God's creation, a person, a mother feeding a baby, any kind of thing where you manage to see true beauty, it triggers off in you an emotional feeling of pleasure. Now, to complicate the matter, there's two kinds of love. You'll see it in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of Our Fathers. There's ahava shetluya b'davar, love which is dependent on something. And when that something which the love is dependent on, a botla, the davar, the love goes away. And that's usually what happens to most people. They, so to speak, fall in love. Strange term, they're walking along, they tripped and they fell in love. It means they somehow saw something that they thought they understood, or they think they understand, in that other person, which is very attractive to them, either for their own gratification or for some unexpected expectation of love and romance and all kinds of unexplained things. And then after people get married, most people, it starts to go away because the real person comes and it's not there. What people dreamt of is not there. And so you have to replace it with ahava shelo tluya b'davar, love which is not dependent on anything, which is unconditional love. The only person who has such a feeling, unconditional automatically, God caused it to happen to a mother who has a baby. And they're unconditional. The baby doesn't say thank you, the baby doesn't know anything, but this mother somehow is blessed with the possibility of loving her baby unconditionally. And we have all kind of experienced that in some sense, different ways, different people. And that's what we think we're going to get when you meet a girl, a lady, and you'll have that same kind of love that your mother had for you, or you'll have the same kind of love for her like a mother. And that doesn't exist. Because the only way that we can ever have this love that is unconditional is by the way we behave towards somebody or something. You can come to love Torah, you can come to love Judaism, love the Jewish people, love the land of Israel, because the only thing that you love automatically like that is yourself. And this is proven. Why does it say in the Torah, love your neighbor as yourself? If you didn't love yourself, it wouldn't tell you to love your neighbor as yourself. So we are all given by God an intrinsic love for ourselves. That's why we look after ourselves. We see we got food, we see we got health, we want to be accepted and so forth. And the success in life is, can you transfer that natural feeling that you've been blessed by God to somebody else? And just to complete that in a limited way, before we go to analysis of man and woman, the only way to do it then is, if the only thing that you automatically love unconditionally is yourself, the only way to come to love anything else, Torah, God, whatever it is, architecture, I happen to be an architect, whatever it is, if you take from yourself whom you love and give of yourself to somebody or something. So idealists love their country because they sacrifice themselves for their country. So whatever you sacrifice for, what's the process of sacrifice? It's taking from the intrinsic love that God gave you for yourself and transferring it to somebody else. So when that chosen and kala walk away from the chuppah, their unconditional love is zero. They now start the potential process to create it. And so all one's married life, if you know this formula, you can attain unconditional love. And I, thank God, managed to attain it in the last years of my late wife's life. As she was passing away, I can't tell you how much I loved her. It's just something unbelievable. And then God gave me an amazing experience to get married late in life, in my late 60s, to a strange American lady who I'd never seen before. I just knew her qualities as a person, and start to take our rabbi's formula of giving of oneself, zero, special person. And now, Baruch Hashem, I must say, I'm very much in love with my present wife after 18 years. So that's just to put love in its place, and it needs much more explanation. We may have another opportunity. I don't know how far we'll go. Now we've got to know, where is this most dynamic thing between human beings? So God made an amazing design that it can happen between a man and a woman. Now, what is a man and a woman? Today there's great confusion. They try to say there's no difference, it's just preferences, whatever it is, and so forth. And so while you're fighting for this kind of stuff and all that kind of independence and all that, the end result doesn't come anywhere near the beauty of what can be achieved between a Jewish husband, Jewish wife, living in this appropriate manner. So let's analyze from the Torah God's plan. So God created the world, and the very first idea is to know, how did he create? Vayedaber Hashem. God said, let there be light, let there be this. And so a major component of us being created in the image of God is the ability to speak. And just incidentally, it's now Elul, and we should be very conscious of how we speak. In fact, Rabbi Victor Miller brings a beautiful idea. The first week, silence. Speak as little as possible. Think before you speak. Consider what will be the result of what you're going to say to the other person. Don't just shoot your mouth off. And so if you're very careful and you are thinking of the other person, every word you say can build a closeness and appreciation and encouragement. And actually, after doing that, I found so that's the speak. Now, God created the creation. He created inanimate, animate, then plants, then animate, and then eventually created Adam. What was Adam? Adam was the first human being. Why is he called Adam? Because he's made from Adama, from earth. We are basically animated earth. When our life is over, you put our body in the ground, it disintegrates, becomes earth. And then, Vayipach bi'apov nishmas chaim. God breathed into it. He didn't put, he breathed into us the spirit of life, which is our soul. So we are not our body, and we are not our soul. We have a body and we have a soul, and then God says, I'm now going to give you a certain period of time to see how you can take from the infinite soul you have, which is a part of God. We all have a part of God in us, and invest it into your physicality, your body. How can you sanctify your body, your whole body? And just interesting, Shem Shmuel says, there's 613 mitzvahs and there's 613 parts to our body. And we all are interrelated. Like I can't do mitzvahs that Kohanim can do, certain mitzvahs women can do, and so forth. But since Klal Yisrael is we're all responsible for each other, so we derive the benefits of any mitzvah that any Jew ever did, and we contribute our mitzvahs to the benefit of every Jew. And so there's the possibility to not become religious, but to sanctify yourself. Now, what's the purpose of sanctifying yourself? We've got a posuk that says, for the Jewish people, only the Jewish people, once you undertake to keep the mitzvahs in the whole story, God says, Kadoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem lakecho. You should become sanctified because I, your God, am sanctified. So getting close to God is going under a change to yourself that makes you more similar to God. You feel close to anybody if you're more similar to them. And so what are we trying to get similar to if we're trying to get close to God? God is good. The purpose which God created the world is to give of his good to another. That's what the Derech Hashem says. And so we believe in God with two O's. So if you want to get close to God, the more good you become, the more similar you become to God, and the closer you will get to God. Now, what does it mean to be good? To be good means to be the source of true benefit to any person or any situation which you interact with. In other words, your position is not what's in it for me. Your position is what is it that I could do to cause benefit? Or Somayach, State of Israel, anywhere, anything you do, architecture, your clients, people, on a bus, a lonely person, anybody, the more you posture yourself, and that's what we should be doing as we're leading up to Rosh Hashanah. We're going to be hitting a situation where God's going to say, my dear Jew, New Year, what are you after? What you're looking for? And according to what you're looking for, God can then furnish you with opportunities. But you have to be looking for something. And so this is now, how does this Kedusha come in this amazing thing between a husband and a wife? That's what the husband said. Harei at Mikodesh, I'm taken to sanctify you. So let's see how a human being came into existence. So the first human being was not a male as we have a male today, and not a female, but an amalgam. Bosor echod, one person. The first human being was comprised of male and female as one entity. Opinions, they were back to back, opinions side by side, and that's what a human being is. So none of us are human beings. We all half part of a human being. And God said, this is ideal. You've got a husband and a wife, one person, one bosor. But you know what? Lo tov. That's what the Pasuk says in the Torah. Lo tov heyosa odam levado. It's not good for this human being to be able to be alone themselves, because there's no need for them to interact with anybody else. They are everything. They've got everything. So God is, so to speak, telling us he created the perfect human being, but for the purpose of which God created us, that perfect creation is lo tov, heyosa odam levado. So what's God going to do now to solve the problem? He's not to create something else. He says, E'eseh, I'm going to make for this human being an ezer kenegdo, a helpmate against. That's what the Pasuk says. So God's going to make a helpmate against. Where's he going to make it from? Create a new helpmate? No. He puts Adam to sleep, and then he takes away a part of this Adam, And then for the part that he took away, vayiven es ha'isho, he then built, formulated of this part of the human being that he took away, what we now have today as a woman. Why is she called a woman in English? Woman, she's from man. And since the man is Ish, so the woman is Isho. She comes from what is Ish. And what was left from the part that was removed then became a man, then became a Ish. So Adam wasn't an Ish. Adam was an amalgam of Ish and Isho. And so what is the potential between a husband and a wife? That God said, Al Kain Ya'azov, that's the posuk in the Torah. Therefore, when a man matures, he has to Ya'azov, he has to, in a certain way, disengage from his mother and father as the prime individuals in life who he's close to and loves and has a proper relationship. So he has to somehow slightly disengage, v'dovak be'ishto, and he's got to cleave to his wife, v'yihiyu leboser echod, and they should move towards becoming one person. So no, marriage is not a partnership. Marriage, the whole idea of Kiddushin, I don't like to use the word marriage. The whole idea of Kiddushin is to commence a process of moving from being a woman and a man more and more to being one person. Now, I've never heard anybody describe an experience of being one person with somebody else. However, in the saddest moments of my life, I happened, with God's help, to experience such a thing. My late wife, beautiful wife, I met her many years ago in B'nai Kiva. We had 7 children, we had an amazing life. We came to Israel, taught this, all that stuff. Unfortunately, she got cancer, and over a period of 8-9 years, she had this, and we went for a treatment. I always went with her and held her hand while she's having it and so forth. I can't tell you how much I loved her. And then in her last years, after she had a big operation, she had it in Hadassah, I got permission to get cushions and put it on the floor next to her bed so that I could sleep there, close the curtain. And so if she needed anything at night, she wouldn't have to ring the bell for a nurse. I was there, I could give her water, I could do anything for her. And most fascinating thing happened. So I lay on the floor next to her, and I found that when I sensed, I could be half asleep, that she needed something, I didn't make a decision to do it for her. My hand, like you don't say a decision, I'm thirsty, you don't say, hand, go and take a glass of water. Your hand goes out and takes the glass of water. I found that when I somehow sensed her need, my body reacted to her need like it would be my need. You hear this interesting experience? So that is the only example I've heard of boser echod, means to become like one. So in other words, you're not just living together, 2 people, give and take and all this stuff. God gave us an opportunity to evolve into being like one person. And then I had this strange thing, meeting a lady in my late 60s. In fact, a few weeks after my wife passed away, the Rosh Yeshiva said to me, you must get remarried. I said, what do you mean get remarried? Claire, my mind is, no, Lord Toiva, it's not good for a man to be alone. It applies to you just as much as it applied to you before you married the first time. And then her name came up, a few people recommended, strange American lady, and I met her a few times here in Israel. I spoke to her for every night on the phone. And then one day I said, I think, Nancy, we got a deal. That was my romantic proposal, and we've now been married 18 years and an opportunity. So I want to just give that sort of background to what we're talking about now. So now, the most interesting terminology that we find here, she's not given to a husband as a helpmate. She's given to a husband as an ezer kenegdo, a helpmate against. What is a wife against a husband? Her needs. She needs ways in a different way from a husband. And so her initial requirements, her needs, are of great inconvenience to a husband. in every possible way. And the fact that her needs impose on the husband an effort that he has to make to accommodate that needs is a 24/7 opportunity for a husband to constantly be able to take from himself what would suit him and give of himself to her, to make love, to create love. So, just interestingly, to sum up, there's a wonderful book called The Jewish Marriage. If anybody wants, I could email it to you. It was written many, many years ago in America. I've seen the best book on this particular subject called The Jewish Marriage. It was originally written in Hebrew and translated. So, just to sum up, what does a wife really need? Not what she demands. And so the Gemara he brings the Gemara which says, a wife needs two things. She needs to feel that her husband loves her like himself. Even if he doesn't, and he can't love her like himself when he first got married. So he's got to act. He's got to think, how would I act if I loved her like myself? And so she needs it, not she demands it, she needs it. And if a husband does that, she begins to feel safe. She begins to feel loved. She begins to feel secure. And she can blossom, as I've seen in 2 occasions, 2 wives I had, into the most beautiful thing in a husband's life. But she won't become like that, and she won't just happen to be like that, and it's not luck, it's the product of her getting what she needs. And the second thing she needs, the Gemara says, is that a husband must honor her more than himself, mechabed her more than himself. Which means he can never say any term that's dishonorable. He can never say a word that diminishes her or minimizes her or any way. He's got to keep quiet, gain control, and if you've got something to present her with, a certain issue, wait for the right moment, but never dishonor her. And if she gets those 2 things, she will blossom. And if she doesn't, step by step, even the love that she seemingly had when they first met will change into bitterness. And if you've ever seen any couple in a divorce, you've seen a relationship, the bitterness of the wife is something incredible. And they'll go to no ends. They'll go to no ends even with the children. Let the children, one won't see the child. What people will get up to when they're bitter. So now I'm taking this opportunity, this God-given opportunity to share with you. It's a whole different scenario from what we used to. When we want to understand from the Torah how to live a life with a wife and so forth, it's not just a Jewish version. It's not just doing mitzvahs. It's a completely revolutionary redefinition of what's happening. And I have this great privilege to see. So I had a chance, when I'm a mature man in my late 60s, get married to this strange lady, and to never, ever talk to her in any demeaning way. She could do something silly, she could mess up something and all that. I made myself wait. When there was an appropriate time, when we were feeling close, I could possibly mention that. And to give her the feeling that I love her all the time. I'll walk into a room, how's it, honey bunch? Now there's 80-year-old people, what's the guy saying, honey bunch? But you say, hello, honey bunch. What, your dress is looking so nice. Oh, your shirt's looking, oh, the way that you made the meal, all that. Compliments, but not superficial, genuinely. And so you build up, and I want to say it's a pleasure living with my wife on these kind of things. Very interesting to be able to start from scratch and so to speak, build up something significant. So this is the ideas, and you look in the Psukim, so that now there's one massive area which can be the most destructive thing in a marriage or the most beautiful thing in a marriage. And although I don't know you, I normally would never start to discuss this subject as it is now, but I haven't got the opportunity. And that is this amazing thing, the physical relationship between a man and a woman. Now, in the big world out there, this whole thing, wreaks havoc and destruction. What people get into and what people get up to and what people do and how they dress and how their mannerisms and their body language and what they only do, and then get addicted to self-gratification, using each other for their own personal gratification. And when you hear the Torah's perspective on this, it's absolutely magnificent. When a man undertakes to get married, in the Kesuvah, he undertakes to provide his wife with clothing, with food, with all her necessities, and then one very strange word, honor. O-N-A-H in English, honor. What's honor? Honor is the maximum physical gratification that a woman can have when she's having physical relations with a man. You hear that? The maximum that she can have. And now, a husband, when he got married, signed the Kesuvah, he now has an obligation to provide her with food, clothing, accommodation, whatever it is, but in every time he has a physical relationship with his wife, his obligation is to conduct himself not in the manner that would give himself massive major gratification. He has to limit his whole process in sensitivity to her physical process, which is much slower. And so, in fact, a man and a woman are incompatible in their physical relationship experience. And I haven't got a blackboard here. Oh, there's a blackboard here. Is there anything to write with? Yeah. Okay, if it works, listen, please, God. Okay, so. Can you imagine a line here? You can imagine. I don't need to draw it. Okay, here's a line. So this is where the physical relationship starts off. Now, what happens to a man is he goes like this, up and down. Thank you very much. Oops, sorry. So a man's physical gratification goes up and down. Correct?
Yeah.
Now, a woman's experience goes like this, all over the place, like this, like this. And then somewhere here, she'll reach her maximum gratification. Then the man's goes zip down, and then she's hanging around here till she will eventually go down. So, physiologically, a man and a woman are incompatible. Sorry, can you see the drawing there? Okay? So now, what's the mitzvah honor? A mitzvah, you've got an obligation, put on tefillin, you've got a mitzvah to daven, to provide her, adjust your conduct in the physical relationship, not to do that, but to harmonize as much as possible with what's going on with her, which is to warm her body up by various ways of massaging, all different ways. And when you become a chosen, you'll be explained all this stuff. There are different ways that a woman's body reacts to physical contact, to emotional contact. So basically, you're now in a position of responding to her physiological needs. You're making love. What's making love? You're taking away from yourself, you're giving up what would be your most comfortable form of gratifying yourself, which is what men all do. And women are usually left hanging at different degrees and never sometimes even have this kind of gratification. And the women sell their bodies for men to use for this purpose. And here comes a Jewish man keeping Shabbos and all that stuff, and he doesn't know about this, and he does the same thing. He abuses the opportunity of sanctifying her. How do you sanctify something? So there's two stages in sanctity. You first have to know what you're dealing with. And so that is analyzing what you're dealing with, coming to understand it. You've got to understand how a woman's body works. And so if you know how body works, and then to respond according to the need of what you're dealing with. So if you can't have this Kedusha of Shabbos unless you know what Shabbos is. You can't have the Kedusha of Davening, you can't have the Kedusha of anything. So you need to have this understanding. And so that's the mitzvah of honor. So completely different to the way how the world looks at it. The whole world looks like women have got to make themselves available one way or another. You pay them, or you buy them off, or you buy them clothes, or you do all kinds of stuff and take them on trips. What's the guy got in the mind at the end of the story? He wants to have his physical gratification. What does a Jewish husband say? I am at the service. My avoida. She is an Ezer Kenegdo. She's a help to me to become a decent, kind, giving, caring person, a caring, loving husband, because she has physiological needs which challenge my natural selfish experience. So I give up this and I learn how to adjust my conduct in this whole process in harmony with her process, massaging, all kinds of things and so forth. And so ideally, they should reach the climax together, the man just after the woman. And if you do such a thing, you fulfill the mitzvah of honor. Now and what have you done? You made love, because you took from your natural selfish gratification and you adjusted it in accordance with the need of your wife. Interesting? At this stage, any questions? Comments? Yeah.
So, I wish I could remember the source, but remember I learned with my Rabbi pretty much talking about someone who like, doesn't like know about this. It'd almost be like considered like
Mechalel Shabbos.
Like someone that's like a bandit that just come there, like take and then just like leave with no.
Yeah, well,
it's just kind of like, yeah, it's just
well,
like, even if you're like, even though you're their husband, you're just kind of almost like a bandit that just kind of like came and just kind of like took what you wanted from her. And
tragic. And sadly, and in the end of the day, what will happen, he'll become tired, they'll become bored, it'll just become a sort of thing, maybe gets drunk on a Saturday night or something, or some kind of a sort of thing. And what did the Torah give us? Something beautiful. Kedusha. No, not okay, not legitimizing some kind of activity that's semi-embarrassing. And so the Torah says, it's okay with your wife. This whole thing is not a nice business. Sex, whatever that word means. And so, but the Torah says, okay, if you get married to her, it's okay. It's not okay, because it's that whole thing desensitizes the whole process. On the other hand, what a blessing. What a blessing. And of course, when a chosen gets married, thank God I've had the privilege to counsel many young men after they get married, before they get married, all over the world with Zoom. I'm actually learning with a guy in Georgia now, and so, or anything like that. And so it's such an important thing to understand. So we, yeah.
And why do we speak only on men's side? What's the job on this graph from a woman perspective? Because as far as I understand this thing, it's kind of, it seems to me like a man's only application, not the woman's.
Okay, yeah. So let me explain to you, let me share with you the idea. One of the most dramatic things that you'll ever do in your life is cause another human being to come into existence when you have a child. So you'd say, how does a child come into existence? A husband and a wife. Oh no. The wife creates nothing. She's not capable of creating anything in relation to a baby coming into this world. A woman is born with all the eggs she'll ever have. And she's got all these eggs, and they all have the potential, if they fertilized by one drop of a man's semen, that they can start to evolve from a little tiny egg in a unique environment of a woman's body, which begins to change to provide that environment, from a little egg into a human being. And what does the woman do? Nothing. Her body automatically, when her husband gives her that little drop of semen, the tiniest thing you've ever seen, if she gets from her husband that tiny little thing that she needs, and it fertilizes the egg, then automatically her body then starts to change and evolve into an environment that will allow this egg to grow into a human being. So what does the woman give in that? Zero. She's born with everything she'll need, but she can't be functional unless she gets from her husband that tiny drop. And that's the formula. If the woman gets what she needs, a woman was created to provide a man with the opportunity to become sanctified. She is a helpmate to him. He's not a helpmate to her. She's a helpmate to him. And that's why God said, Lo tov yosem levado. If they're one person, then there's no possibility for giving. They're perfect, ideal. They're one person. How can I make something good? How can they lo tov? How can I make tov? I'll make from this one human being a product which will be comprised of a man who will have something that's been taken away that he will desire and need, and he'll have a very clear way to get that, the appropriate manner. Sanctification is how he'll get it. And then from this, I'll now, vayiven esa isho, I'll build the woman. And it's so interesting because he didn't say I'll create the woman. Bereshit bara, there are different terms that God uses for creation. Bereshit bara, God created yesh mi'ayim, something from nothing. There was nothing physical. And then God created the human being. When he created Adam, he didn't bara, he didn't create Adam from nothing. It says, vayitzar, he formed, he took earth that already existed, and he put the earth and he made it into the shape of a human being, and then he breathed in the spirit of, that's why our life is dependent on breathing, because God breathed life into us, and that's how our soul got into us. So God took a product that already existed in the land, and he formed it. When it comes to the woman, it doesn't say he formed the woman, it says vayiven, he built. Any of you ever in a youth movement called Habonim? Habonim, strong build, as we lads have become. Okay, so Habonim means to build. But what does it mean, bina? Even. So it comes from the root bino. What's bina? Chokhmah, bina, and das. Bina means intuitive understanding. Now this is such an important idea. I hope I'm able to communicate it to you. Intuitive understanding. A woman has intuitive understanding. A man has to work out everything logically. And that's what we say, I don't understand you. You can't explain something to a woman. She does it. It's not that she can't understand it. She can sense whether it's right or wrong. She can pick it up. Somebody walks in the room, she can sense there's something right or wrong. And that's why when it came to major decisions with Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, for instance, Ishmael headed down the path of becoming a danger to Yitzchak's life. So Sarah said to Avram, you've got to send Ishmael away. And Avram said, no, he's my son, how can I send him away? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Avram, Shma b'kola, listen to her. She intuitively knows that the making of Ishmael will be first to be rejected, and in fact that's what happened. He ended up in later life being a tzaddik. And the same thing, you know, the major thing with Rivka, where she switched the, Yaakov and Esav to get the blessings. And then, of course, Yaakov, the same thing happened when Yaakov had to get married, that Leah gave the secret signs to her sister, Rachel, and so we got Klal Yisroel, and sort of thing. So you've got to know, a woman is blessed with intuitive ability. And so what would an intelligent husband? Cultivate it, encourage her, because there are many situations in life where you can't assess. I was dead scared to come here. You know, we had this COVID, we older people, we had all the injections, and people getting COVID and dying from COVID, all that sort of stuff. And we were in our apartment for 15 months, we never went out and nobody came in. Wonderful people brought us our shopping and all that, and we developed a chevrusa with Zoom, all kinds of stuff. And now my wife's granddaughter got married here in Israel. And they said, you've got to go. I said, go to the wedding, go. What do you mean just go? You know, I'm just starting to go out to shul and all this kind of stuff. And so, but my wife said, we've got to go. So I trusted she knew. And thank God, I said, I just started wondering, I've just got to break out of this and say, hey, Nancy, it's great, we're going to Israel. No, I felt like going to Israel. You can't believe, you know, so packing and the plane and all that kind of stuff and passports and all that sort of stuff. And my son, you saw him here just now, he took off some work and he actually flew with us on the plane to help us with the luggage. Everything worked out fantastic. But she intuitively knew, and I went along with it because I respected her intuitive input. So this is, now if you laugh at it, you say, a woman, you know, what a woman, that kind of, no, if you respect it and you develop it. So I've tried to convey to you today what I consider major areas which can make such a tremendous difference to the way one goes into this whole thing. Of course, it's all mentioned in short. Did it help you a little bit? You know, you asked the question about the different. So it works. As you can see, the physiology, the whole creative. And by the way, a man can't keep seed. A man hasn't got seed. He's constantly creating seed. And with all his creating seed, he can't produce anything. He wastes it, and that's why it's an issur. That's why homosexual is issur and all that kind of thing, for a man to issue seed, excepting when he's having relations with his wife into her, it's a waste of the seed, and it's an issur, something we should avoid it. And so, therefore now, the man with all his creativity, yeah.
How is it a waste if it's always creating it? It just gets replaced.
Sorry?
How, you said it's a waste, wasting seed.
Yes.
How is it a waste if it's constantly being created? It's constantly being created, constantly coming.
No. God gave you seed. The purpose of the seed is to give that drop to your wife to produce children.
I don't disagree with that, but you said it's a waste. How can you?
Well, if you cause an ejection, deliberately, you are wasting the seed.
But it just gets replaced.
It's more than just a short discussion, but halachically, it's forbidden for a man to waste his seed.
I understand that. I was just mainly talking about your definition of it.
Sorry, ask again. I'd like to get it clear. You know,
I think I understood what you're saying. Was also the technical definition, the wordage that you used, which I found to be inconsistent with what you said about it constantly being created.
Yeah.
I don't see how there can be waste. I think in a Torah,
No.
there is still waste, but I'm saying from the wordage you used, I just thought it would be.
It's constantly coming into it's coming into existence. In other words, it can't be stored, and so it's a creator. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm not 100% correct then in my terminology. But for a man to eject it, other than for the purpose of granting pleasure to his wife. So that's why, you see, interestingly, a man can have relations with his wife when she's pregnant. Now, there's no way she can get more pregnant. In other words, to eject the seed and have that process while he is fulfilling the mitzvah of giving her honor legitimizes exactly what you're saying.
It's not a waste.
Yeah. So it's not a waste. Yeah. So, but if you do it in any other way, that's what's awesome. So any sort of, and that's why a pregnant wife.
It's not so the ejection that is problematic. It's more so the misuse of it.
Yes, that's right. The circumstances within which it is ejected. Very good question. Yeah. Okay, have you all got a whole new view of life?
Yeah.
And it's worth saving for this wonderful opportunity. And so, again, it's very important to know that our purpose in life is to get close to God. The process of getting close is to become sanctified. Asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav. Now, just a short word. Interestingly, there's a certain big rabbi, either Rabbi Twersky or Rabbi Kalabach, I heard on the tape, a very way explaining it. How do we become holy? God says, Kadoshim ti, you should become holy, ki kadosh ani Hashem, because I, your God, am holy. Now, if God is holy, then everything's holy. Isn't God everything? So how can you become holy if God is everything? So explained interestingly, but I think he brought from the Rambam, I'm not sure exactly where, that when God created the world, he took two elements and he de-kadoshed them, time and space. And what's the world created out? E equals mc squared. The world's created of time and space. So time and space were de-kadoshed. And how did he make time kadosh? Shabbos. And how did he make space kadosh? Eretz Yisrael. So God gave intrinsic kedusha to a period 1 day a week, Shabbos, and intrinsic kedusha to Eretz Yisrael. We don't make Eretz Yisrael holy, we don't make Shabbos holy. But then he gave us the chance to make extrinsic kedusha, the Chagim, the Yontavim. And one of the most meaningful spaces we can make holy, besides a shul or a yeshiva, is a Jewish home. A Jewish home is called a tabernacle, a mishkan me'at, a small tabernacle. So, when a man stands by his door, anytime he goes into his home, a home is not where you do what you like. A home is where you create sanctity by appropriate behavior. So from the time you walk into your home, you should try everything you do with consideration, appropriateness, honor, and dignity. And if you make your home into a tabernacle, you serve your home like a Kohen serves in the tabernacle, or the Kohanim in the Beis HaMikdash, which you're looking to do, what ought I to do? What's needed from me? How you clean the flat, how you keep it the atmosphere. And when people will come into that, my home now is an opportunity to makarev people. I must say, over the years, thousands and thousands of people have come through my home, our homes, and that sometimes was the first step in their evolving into what. I in fact had an interesting phone call about a few months ago from a guy who phoned me from South Africa, and he said, "You Ivan Ziskind?" I said, "Yeah." He said, I said, "Who are you?" He gives me his name. I couldn't remember. I said, "Where do I know you from?" He says, "I was a disc jockey on Springbok Radio." You know what disc jockeys are? On the change of music on the radio. He says, "You met me in the street in Johannesburg, and you said," I started talking and said, "Would you like to come for Friday night supper?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, I'll come." I said, "No, but I'm not religious." I said, "No, you don't have to be religious, just to come to eat, you know, and just eat food and friendship is what makareving people is all about." And so he said, I came, and it was very nice. I had a very nice house in South Africa, and a ping pong table, a lot of people sitting around, and a nice atmosphere, and singing, and friendship, and all that. And he said, and then after the meal, you said to me, "Maybe I'd like to sleep over." I said, "No, I'm not really." I said, "No, you don't have to come to shul. Just sleep over, stay for lunch, and come to lunch tomorrow." And he said, "I agreed." And you went and you showed me where I'll be sleeping. And after the dinner, I went there, and there was a young boy taking out his pajamas, and I said to him, "I'm sorry for taking your bed." He said, "The beds in this house are for visitors, guests. We only sleep in it when there are no guests." I don't know which one, it might have been him. I don't know which son it was that said it. And that made a very big impression in me. I said, "What are you phoning me to thank me?" He says, "My son just got smicha from Rabbi Berkowitz here in Yerushalayim." So from a invitation. So that, and you see, that's chesed. That's giving of yourself. And I'm not an expert in it, but I've done it for so many years. I've seen amazing results. Have you ever heard Rabbi Tat speaking? Well, Rabbi Tat spent his first Shabbos in our house, so years ago, medical student, all kind. So I'm saying, and you will grow by giving of yourself, and you come to love people, come to love Klal Yisrael, and please God, you build a home, and before you get married, make sure you get a teacher who'll tell you all the details and so forth and so on. If you haven't got anybody else, you could contact me. We can learn on Zoom and so forth. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much for attending. And you should have a successful Elul leading up to a wonderful Rosh Hashanah, setting you up for a great year ahead. Thank you very much.